A very warm good morning to all my students. Children, as you all know, that nowadays we all are going through a very crucial stage of life. Due to Corona, we are all bound to stay at home, but life must go on. And today I'm here to start with the new first chapter of your book Flamingo, the last lesson. I have sent you some notes, but still I was not satisfied because teaching my children is something which I love. Children, this is a chapter which is set during the Persian War, which took place in 1870-71. In this war, French army was defeated by the German army. Germans were under the leadership of Bismarck, and during this war, when French army was defeated, two districts of Alsace and Lorraine were captured by the German army. And as you all know, that whenever a country is defeated by a particular country, always the victorious country tries to dominate the defeated country through its culture, language, literature, and all the other aspects in order to dominate them. Now, in this chapter, the writer, the the person who has written this chapter, Alfonso Dore, he was basically a French writer, and he was a journalist. He started journalism for the purpose of just earning a living. He wrote a few books in poetry also. His book is famous, which is named as Le Amore, and he started journalism with the aim of earning some money because he was not having a very good life at that time. Now, children, we'll start with the text part. I'll take each and every sentence and try to explain it to you, and I'll give you the meanings of some new words also. Let's start with the text. Now, the first paragraph. I started for school very late that morning and was in great dread of a scolding. Dread is what? Dread is when you have fear within your mind of scolding, especially because M. Hamel had said that he would question us on participles, and I did not know the first word about it. For a moment, I thought of running away and spending the day out of doors. It was so warm, so bright. The birds were chirping at the edge of the woods, and in the open field back of the sawmill, the Persian soldiers were drilling. It was all much more tempting than the rule for participles. But I had the strength to resist and hurried off to school. Now you see children, the story is about a small child. His name is Franz. He is the protagonist of the story, and he's talking about his emotions, his feelings. The small child is going towards his school, and the teacher has given some homework which this child has not done. Now, what is the homework? The homework was preparing the lesson on participles. The child did not prepare. Obviously, when you're not prepared with your homework, you have that deep fear in your mind. The child was fearful of going to school. Now, what happened? He is fearful that probably when he has not done his work, the teacher would scold him. And what is the name of the teacher? Mr. M. Hamel. Now, the child is full of fear, but due to fear, he runs away from the school. Then he tries to see the environment nearby. The birds were chirping, the scenery was beautiful, and he saw that the Persian soldiers were doing their routine exercise. Now, what is drilling, children? Probably march past, probably training of different activities related to army. Training for different activities of the army, that is called drilling. It was all much more tempting. Tempting is very lucrative, which the child was interested in, than the rules of participles. The child was more interested in observing nature and looking at these soldiers who were performing different exercises. But he had the strength to stop himself from all these things, and he started moving towards his school. Although he was late, but still he moved towards his school. Now the next paragraph. When I passed the town hall, there was a crowd in front of the bulletin board. For the last 2 years, all of our bad news had come from there. Why is it moving away? The lost battles, the draft, the orders of the commanding officer, and I thought to myself without stopping, what can be the matter now? Now the child is wondering. When he's moving towards his school, he saw that there was a bulletin board over there and a lot of people were crowding near it. And from last 2 years when the war was going on, all the bad news of different defeats, of different orders from the commanding officer were always put on the bulletin board. Now he was wondering what was the matter, what new was there. Then, as I hurried by as fast as I could go, the blacksmith washer who was there with his apprentice. Apprentice is what? The different equipments which you need as a blacksmith. Reading the bulletin, called after me. That particular person, he called the child Franz. Don't go so fast, Bub. You'll get to your school in plenty of time. He said that you don't hurry up. There's plenty of time. You'll reach your school well before getting late. I thought he was making fun of me and reached M. Hammer's little garden all out of breath. Now the child, he hurried up towards his school where Mr. M. Hamel was teaching, and when he reached there, he was completely exhausted, which has been said as all out of breath. All out of breath means he was completely exhausted, probably because he was running very fast. Usually, when school began, there was a great bustle. Bustle is what? Noise, A lot of noise is there because of activity, excited activity that creates noise. That is called bustle, which could be heard out in the street. The opening and closing of desk, lessons repeated in unison. Now children, they keep on opening the desk, closing it. Now they're moving here and there. All this sound could be heard in the street. Then lessons repeated in unison. Unison is all together. When you do some sort of activity all together, which happens together, that is called unison. Now, the fact of two or more things being happening together or being done together, that is called unison. Now, very loud with our hands over our ears to understand better, and the teacher's great ruler rapping on the table. Now, rapping on the table means the teacher was striking the ruler on the table again and again. But now it was also still. But that particular day, when Franz hurried up towards his school, he was late, things were different. Everything was very still, everything was very peaceful, there was no sound. It was a very peaceful atmosphere that day. I had counted on the commotion. Counted on the commotion? I was depending on the commotion. Commotion? The movement, the sound, the disturbance. To get to my desk without being seen. Now, whenever it was a normal day and he was late, he used to depend on the movement, on the disturbance in the class and get to his desk. But this particular day, it was something different. He was not able to get without being noticed. But of course, that day everything had to be as quiet as Sunday morning. Things were different this particular day. Through the window, I saw my classmates already in their places and M. Hamel. M. Hamel is who? He's the teacher. Walking up and down. Up and down is what? To and fro. Up and down is to and fro. With this terrible iron ruler under his arm. I had to open the door and go in before everybody. Now, before everybody, now he was being noticed by everybody. Because this was the day when things were different. There was no noise. There was no commotion. And everybody observed him entering late inside the class and moving towards his desk. You can imagine how I blushed and how frightened I was. Blushed? He was full of shame. He was hesitant and he was frightened. Why? He was expecting that his teacher would give him a good scolding. But nothing happened. M. Hamel saw me and said very kindly, "Go to your place quickly, little friends." Now this was very shocking for the child. He was expecting the teacher to scold him. But the teacher was very polite. The teacher was very gentle. And he very gently said to the child that you please move to your seat. We were beginning without you. The teacher even added that you are late and we were about to begin the chapter, begin the lesson without you. I jumped over the bench and sat down at my desk. Now the child says that he went to his desk and he settled down. Now, not till then, when I had got a little over my fright, did I see. Now, when the child settled down on his seat, that sense of fear was completely over him, that vanished away, and then he noticed that there was something different that particular day. Did I see that our teacher had on his beautiful green coat? That particular day, the teacher, Mr. M. Hamill, was wearing his beautiful green coat, which had frills. His frilled, just a sec. It is not moving. His frilled shirt and the little black silk cap, all embroidered, that he never wore except on inspection and prize days. Now the teacher was wearing his special dress. That dress was worn by the teacher only on special occasions. When there was inspection in the Vidyalaya, in the school, or there was some prize days. Then only Mr. Hamill used to wear that particular attractive dress with silk cap and lot of decorations on it. Besides, the whole school seemed so strange and solemn. Solemn is what? Peaceful, without noise. And why strange? That things which used to happen every day were not happening. But the thing that surprised me most was to see on the back benches that were always empty the village people sitting quietly like ourselves. Now, this was something very surprising for the child to see. The class was basically for students, but that particular day, the oldies, the old people, the people of the old generation were sitting on the back benches. The village people sitting quietly like ourselves, old Hauser. Now, Hauser is a surname. With his three-corner hat, the former mayor, the former postmaster, and several others besides. Now, old people were sitting at the back benches. Everybody looked sad. Now, this was something to be noticed, and the child noticed that people sitting on the back benches were all very, very sad. And Hauser had brought an old primer. Now, children, what is primer? Primer is basically a book of the basic knowledge about a subject, like ABCD, which the primary children they learn from. ABCD, the alphabets. In Hindi, you can say A, A, E, E. Now, the basic alphabets. The book which has this information is called primer. Thumbed at the edges. Now, why thumbed at the edges? Basically, the books they were carrying were old books and they were folded on the edges. They were old books, they were almost torn away and they were folded at the edges. And he held it open on his knees with his great spectacles lying across the pages. And with his spectacles, he was looking at the book. While I was wondering about it all, Mr. Hamill mounted his chair, he sat on his chair. And in the same grave and gentle tone, grave, serious, gentle, very kindly, very gentle, very softly, which he had used to me, said, "My children, this is the last lesson I shall give you." Now the teacher, he announced that particular chapter, that particular lesson was the last one, which he was going to teach them that particular day. The orders has come from Berlin to teach only German in the schools of Alsace and Lorraine. Children, I told you in the very beginning that Alsace and Lorraine, they were two districts which were captured by the German army. And it is not written anywhere. But whenever a victorious country is there, victorious army is there, they always try to dominate the people, the culture, the language of those people who are defeated. Children, you must be remembering that India had been under the control of Britishers for a very long time. And when Britishers were ruling over here, what they did? They started ruling us, dominating us, and influencing us by their language, by their culture. And today, it is something ironical. We all want to learn English. We want to be expert in this language. But if we really Think about it. It came to us when we were under the British rule. And it is going on and on. The new master comes tomorrow. Now, Mr. M. Hamill, he announced that from the next day, a new master would come to teach them, and he would be teaching them German, not French. This is your last French lesson. I want you to be very attentive. Now, the teacher announced that this is the last lesson of French language which he was teaching them, and he wanted them to be very, very attentive and alert. What a thunderclap these words were to me. Now, thunderclap, it was very strange, it was very shocking, he never expected it, and it came as a surprise to him. It was a surprise, unexpected surprise to him. He was not expecting it. He was shocked, he was bewildered, he was completely confused. Oh, the wretches. That was what they had put up at the town hall. Now he came to understand. Now he understood that that was the bad news which was being read by the people on the bulletin board outside the school premises. My last French lesson. Why? I hardly knew how to read and write French. Now the child was full of agony, sorrow. He was feeling bad that he never really bothered about learning his own language. My last French lesson. Why? I hardly knew how to write. I should never learn anymore. I must stop there. Then, now he was contemplating, he was thinking, he was worried. Now this is the last lesson the teacher is teaching. And after that, they will be under the control of the German army and they'll be forced to learn German. Oh, how sorry I was for not learning my lessons. Now he was feeling sorry for seeking birds' eggs. Seeking birds' eggs? For just loitering here there and searching for birds' eggs or going sliding on the Saar. Now what is Saar, children? Saar is the name of a river. And children, they used to just move here and there on the bank of the river. My books that had seemed such a nuisance a while ago, so heavy to carry, my grammar and my history of the saints were old friends now, and I couldn't give up. Now the child says that all my books of history and grammar, they were never liked by me. Now when my teacher told us that that was the last lesson of French language, I felt that they were like my old friends and I was not in a condition to give them up. I wanted to learn them. I wanted to learn them again and again. And M. Hamill too, the idea that he was going away, that I should never see him again, made me forget all about his ruler and how cranky he was. Now the child says, he's emoting. He says that he never liked the teacher. The teacher was very strict. He used to use his ruler to sometimes physically punish the children. But now the child confesses that now he started liking the teacher also. And the fact that the teacher was very, very strict was not under consideration. Poor man, it was in honor of this last lesson that he had put on his fine Sunday clothes. And now I understood. Poor man, it was in honor of this last lesson that he had put on his fine Sunday clothes. And now I understood why the old men of the village were sitting there in the back of the room. It was because they were sorry too that they had not gone to school more. Now people who were sitting at the back benches, they were also repenting. They were feeling sorry that they never paid attention to their native language, French. It was their way of thanking our master for his 40 years of faithful service and of showing their respect for the country that was theirs no more. Now these people who were sitting on the back benches of the classroom, the children who were there to study French, they were all feeling sorry. They were repenting. They were full of sadness. The feeling of gloom was there in their hearts, in their minds, that they never paid attention to their native language. And now the country was under the rule of the Germans. While I was thinking of all this, I heard my name called. It was my turn to recite. What would I not have given to be able to say that dreadful rule for the participle, although all through, very loud and clear, and without one mistake. But I got mixed up on the first words and stood there, holding on to my desk, my heart beating, and not daring to look up. Now, see, the child wants to give the answer to the teacher, give the rules of participle to the teacher very enthusiastically. He stood up, he wanted to be good in the eyes of the teacher, but his heart was beating very fast and he mixed up his sentences and was not able to give the correct answer. He was really disappointed. He wanted to be good in the eyes of his teacher. He wanted to give the right answer, but he was completely confused and he did not give the right answer.